recording from the Orcom. I hope, yeah, it starts recording. With the motion, this House would ban the foreign investment on Indonesian tech startups. I'd like to invite Prime Minister.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
By the way, if anyone wants to POI me, just like unmute, because I will not be reading at the chat. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ideally, as opening government, our stances is basically this. We say it's okay for us to have a lesser technological development that is reliant, because technological development in Indonesia is reliant on the startup. We say that it's okay to have slower this kind of thing. It's in exchange for a better market transition. Because the problem in the status quo is the fact that this kind of startup operates in a most evil way of market disruption. I'm going to go further in my argument, right? But before that, I'm going to do one simple model, right? Basically, we're going to ban all kind of investment coming from foreign land for this kind of specific tech startup, right? It's as simple as that. We will ban any kind form of investment like buying stocks, for example, or directly giving this kind of startup injecting this kind of startup huge amount of money and all that kind of thing. Basically, we're going to talk about 2 things here. Number 1, on how this foreign investment is harmful, right? And number 2, on how then we should ban this as the Indonesian government. We think that in this debate we operate as an Indonesian government, right? Because we are debating, we are assuming that we as Indonesian government have the ability to ban this kind of foreign investment, right? Okay, I'm going to go to my first argument. Why foreign investment is harmful?
Clarification.
You need to understand that this, no thank you. You need to understand that this kind of startup operates in a different way from a company or UMKM, right? What differs them is that their ability to disrupt the market. Take Gojek or Tokopedia, it literally changed the behavior of their customer radically. From them going to shop in Pasar 88, for example, or going to Lipo Karawaci, for example, to staying at home and buying things in Tokopedia. Or Gojek, for example, they left things like taxi biru, I forgot the name, and whatever kind of taxi, and then use Gojek and Grab instead. Their startup goal is basically a market disruption based on their technological, right? And you need to understand that this kind of startup source of funding is basically from investment, right? Investment that in the future will be traded by stocks, right? The goal of startup itself is different from UMKM or any other company, right? Because when UMKM and other company goal is for a long-term sustainability, basically the goal of startup is only to be a temporary disruption. And if they are able to grow, their final goal is basically to be bought by another big company at the end of the day, right? Basically, this kind of startup can easily get big, disrupting the existing market in Indonesia, funding investment, and there is no need for them to be profitable at the beginning. And basically, their goal is to exit the market after the disruption, and by exiting, we mean to be bought or to incorporated by another kind of big company, right? What does this entails to you? This means that when foreign investors are investing to this kind of startup, most likely this kind of startup will be affected from this kind of people who comes from other country, right? And the market disruption will be even worse in the status quo, right? Because number 1, they came from outer country, right? They don't understand anything about the current economical condition in Indonesia, the market in Indonesia, right? Compared to local investor, at least they understand that they should still keep the good name of the company in order for them to be profitable, right? That's why they will be able to tell this startup to do things like slowly development, for example, because they still need to protect their good name, right? Especially when you talk about foreign investor, they don't understand anything about Indonesia, right? Especially their main interest of foreign investor basically biggest profit, right? They can affect the startup decision inside the country itself. So the market disruption will be even worse under opposition. Okay, we admit that maybe we will get less innovation and less startup technology, but at the very least, the market disruption will not as bad as what is happening in opposition. That's why opposition need to defend why is it okay for the startup to suddenly injected by a humongous amount of money from a big scale its disruption. Hi, check, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Tadi 509 ya?
Yep.
Oh, oke. Tadi tuh sampai
Less innovation.
oh ya, less innovation. Okay. I'm going to restart my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, maybe we will get less innovation and startup, but at the very least, the market disruption is not going to be as bad as opposition side. That's okay, maybe they will also talk about the tax goes from the startup towards the development of these people who are affected to this market disruption and helping these people. The tax that coming from the large profit that comes from this kind of investment, for example, but they cannot really rely on taxes because it is the taxes itself are dependent on the regime and the interest of the government, right? And look at the interest of Indonesia government now, right? They want an investment toward palm oil from outside the country, right? That's why even if the taxes exist, most likely all this tax will goes to palm oil development at the end of the day, right? Because right now Indonesia supports really palm oil development, right? Okay. Now coming to my second argument, why then we should ban this, right? You need to understand that market disruption is harmful toward the people. It could cause sudden amount of people losing their job. For example, like company or UMKM losing their job, for example, right? That's why in order for us to protect the people, we don't want this kind of extremely fast market disruption because it is harmful toward the society, especially when you are in a developing country, right? Right? Because you can see on how when Gojek suddenly show up, you can see this taxi yang warna biru goes out of job suddenly. Like that's why as an Indonesian government, you want investment toward the palm oil, but at the same time you also don't want the market. You want people to calm down at least by not disruption of their market, right? That's why at the very least you should ban this kind of foreign investor on startup in order to set at least slow the market disruption at the end of the day. Thank you anyway.
Thank you for the speech. To continue the case of opening opposition, I call upon leader of opposition.
Yes, am I clear?
Yes, you are.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not living in the 90s anymore, where everything is everything is not about digital. We are living in a globalization era where everything is about technology. Even right now, you can wait at your home and let people will deliver your food to your home. It is ridiculous coming from opening government that they want to lessen the technology development in Indonesia in the context of globalization era. Our stance as our opening opposition is clear that we are going to stick with the status quo in order to expand the technology startup that exists in Indonesia. And all my rebuttal will be intertwined in my substantive. Judges, they told you on how it's okay for them to lesser the technology government. We say no, right? Given the context that in the status quo right now, we live in the globalization era where your life is somehow rely on your on digital. You can make your country have lesser innovation for technology development, but they told you on how it's going to harming the traditional market and UMKM and so on and so forth. Look, even right now, the economic condition in Indonesia is already progressive. Small food UMKM, for example, they use Gojek to have a more buyer, ladies and gentlemen, that want to buy. They use Tokopedia, for example, to sell their product. So the moment they sell their product from Jakarta, for example, they could sell their product to Lampung or even to Bali, for example. And we think that it's going to expand the market. The market, right? It's going to be so much more beneficial under our set of the house. Look, in the traditional market right now, ladies and gentlemen, they also sell their product in technology startup. If they offer is a small store, for example, look, under the status quo right now, how like small computer store in Mangga Dua, for example, they also sell their product in Bukalapak. Means what? Means that the existence of technology startup is to help this small UMKM that exists under the status quo right now, right? To expand that market. Means what? The moment they could expand their market, is that the moment they could have more income, ladies and gentlemen. So that's to say, it's ridiculous coming from them, right? But if we are talking about technology startup, the innovation will never stop, ladies and gentlemen. There will always be a new innovation or trend that coming, right? And the only way for us to survive is to have a good technological development, ladies and gentlemen. That's to say, the moment you have if you need a good technological development, means what? Means that you cannot ban this foreign investment on Indonesian technological startup. But next question, right? What is the status quo of this Indonesian technology startup? We understand that Indonesia have a lot of good human resources that have a good innovation. But given the context that Indonesia is a developing country, means that our country capital is not as much to begin with, right? So our country is not as stable as like US, for example, or even Singapore. Means what? Means that we can only rely upon government or local investor only. If we ban this foreign investment towards Indonesian technological startup, it's going to result into how under the status there will be a lack of capital to improve technology startup in Indonesia. But second layer, right? Who needs this foreign investment the most? We told you that the one who needs this foreign investment the most is a new Indonesian technological startup, like Bright Story, for example, or Kedai Sayur, or even Sayur Box. This technological company create a really good innovation and have a good idea, right? On how the existence of Kedai Sayur, for example, or Sayur Box actually helping people in the quarantine because of this coronavirus. They create innovation in order to help people in Indonesia to purchase food in the context of pandemic. In order for them to be able to develop even more, they need a lot of funding, and the actor that could maximally help them is foreign investment to begin with, right? But second layer, judges notice on how foreign investment is not always about money. Look, Gojek in the past do a collaboration with Google from USA and Tencent from China. Their collaboration is giving an investment in the form of human resources or maybe even the skills in technology. Right? This is going to be so much better under our set of laws because of how the moment they have these skills investment from foreign investment. Foreign investment is at the moment they could develop their information innovation to be actually better thing and could be useful towards Indonesian people. But even if let's take the worst case scenario that might come from opening government. What if this is only for this investor only investor for a benefit? We think that is still complex. We think that first of all is no. They invest in Indonesia because of how Indonesia have a really big market to begin with. They understand on how there is actually a lot of users that are coming from Indonesia, where have one of the biggest population country in the world. Means what? There is a big possibility that technology startup will develop a lot in Indonesia, ladies and gentlemen. That's why these foreign investors want to invest towards the technological startup that exists under our country, right? But even if it is only because of the benefit, we think it's completely fine. Because in the end of the day, Indonesian also get the benefit from their investment, right? Like how they also get the income, for example, from the input, get the better income, for example, or give a job opportunity to a lot of Indonesian people. But second is the moment we could actually expand our technological startup, for example, like how they could expand their market even to Vietnam, shows you that on how it's going to also bring a lot of benefit towards our country to begin with. Right? Because opening government need to prove to us how under the set of the house, Indonesia will be able to keep intact towards the market industry, because we believe that the only way Indonesia to keep intact towards the market industry is by not banning this foreign startups toward Indonesia technology company. Thus, we proudly oppose this motion.
Thank you for the speech. To continue the case of OG, I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister. Deputy Prime Minister, the time is yours.
Yeah, hang on. I need to set up my timer. Ow. I'm sorry. I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I would like to first rebut several points from the opposition. The first one is that the existence of startup isn't harmful and expands the market of the market. But here's the thing: you rely on that startup to keep your economy growing. This will bring up a larger impact, especially like if what you say earlier that Indonesia is starting to adopt this kind of technology and they are relying on it. So basically speaking, without this technology, we wouldn't have our economy growing. So basically, if the people who had this system begin to put demands on us, we will have no say in the matter. We have to accept because we are already too relying on it. And the second one is that the tech investment give working place for the local people. I would like to bring this later, but my first point is basically the principle of protection. As an Indonesian government, you are already investing so much on palm oil development. You already burn large amount of money in order to develop this palm oil. You make rules such as omnibus law and stuff. If the opening opposition wants to champion technological development, they need to justify this. Or is it okay to, despite this kind of startup products is only, or is it okay despite this kind of startup product is only accessible towards the rich? The new jobs existed only available to the accessibly by privileged people who can afford to go to university. By this I mean for people who will be dealing with this kind of situation, because like if you call Gojek for example, yeah, you can get jobs, but you don't you how many pay how many did you get paid? The even the one the driver only, they do that because they have no other choices, and as well they're not exactly paid enough for it. So technically speaking, they are not actually getting the benefit, or at least the benefit here is getting more towards the rich people. So this action of Indonesian government is already getting really bad, right? People are angry of this technological changes. That is why, in order for you to calm this down, at the very least, you should disallow foreign investment towards this startup. It's important to slow market disruption because it is useless. It's good, but your people is not rioting. Not only that, extreme market disruption can create a harmful transition of market right. Oh my God. Not only that, this foreign investor literally doesn't care about the country, they don't understand the context in status quo. The only thing they understand that is basically they want the largest market without actually caring about the externalities or inside of external, without the knowing the insides of the government in Indonesia. Another point that I want to bring up is that aside from just the market disruption, their main interest what okay, so I would like to bring up my second point, which is Indonesia is a rich nation with natural resources. We already have our own source of income, so that is not the problem. If we're talking about, oh, how can we economically develop without the use of or the reliance of technological startup. I already mentioned before that this is actually the bad thing, because if you rely too much on the technological investment, over time your nation will become basically the chessboard of the people who hold the higher power. Your nation economy is built on top of this technological advancement, and if they want to say something about it, like, oh, let's increase the price of this, or let's make a really bad prices on certain objects, or put some kind of rule where you got to pay extra if you want to send how many more items to another place. You can't really say anything about it because your entire society, your entire economy is already based on it. This is one thing that I want to say, that is why it is bad, and why we can survive without it is that we already have our own economical resources. um, Indonesia had a tool to make their own industry, but by depending on our nation, we stop exploiting our own natural and technological resources. Indonesia is a rich nation. A rich nation in natural resources. We have many ways to gain our independent economic system. We have many spices and plantation that is unique to us, where other nations are actually relying on us to get this kind of plantation. And we have for example, we have the sea to get many sea resources, and we have coffee, which is one of our most exported resources and one of the most demanded. Our main economy is based on our local plantation and our natural resources. Relying on foreign investment is frankly less profitable and way more damaging to our own economy. So you might be asking, so why then we're not going to accept investor anymore, because that is actually a huge income for us. Here's the thing: we're still welcoming investor. We're just welcoming a local investor. The local investor is actually the one that knows better about the Indonesian government, the state of the nation. So knowing this, that they wouldn't make the bad decision that the other nation or foreign investor will. For example, if the one that I said before, if they want to get more profit, they wouldn't just suddenly say, oh yeah, let's put more bills on this. The problem with this, the thing about this is that local investor wouldn't be able to do it because they also get the impact, while the foreign investor, who cares, because it's the other people land. If their land crash, yeah, it's not our thing. Yeah, as long as the money still comes, we're okay with it. But a local investor, they live in here and they know how the system works. So if we allow these people to stay, but then foreign investor instead, it will be we will still get more of the profit, but we will not get as much of the economical shift that will happen in case we give it to the foreign investor. So in conclusion, we don't need, frankly, we frankly don't need, and it actually makes our society or our basically what we do in a daily basis worse if we rely too much on the foreign investment, especially the tech one. We have our own economical system that can support us and is actually still going on and is our main economical system up until now. And we also welcome local investors. So, that kind of system, like the technological, like Grab, Gojek, it can still work, but not from the foreign one. Think about it like from China. They did a similar thing. They don't allow YouTube, but they can still show video. That's why we are proud to propose.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. To close the opening half, I'd like to call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Wait, I'm putting my headset first. So wait a minute. Sorry. Okay. Now am I audible? How am I audible?
Yes, but not too clear. Can you make it clearer?
Okay. Now is it?
Yes, it's better.
Okay. Wait. Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We say living in digital era where technology everywhere, we need to adapt. We need to adapt us within the technology and also keep on track within the development, right? We have been exploited enough in the past. Having this investment from the foreign is one of the way to maximize the benefit coming from this powerful country that has a lot of capital, right? But before coming to my substantive, I'm going to give clarifications for the opening government, right? This debate should not talking about whether or not we are going to have startup or not, but rather or not you want to ban foreign investment to invest in Indonesia, to invest on Indonesia tech startup, right? They need to engage towards my first speaker cases where she told you on how you need to keep this foreign investor to keep invest on Indonesia in order for create a lot of benefits to develop the technology startup in Indonesia. They need to make sure that under the setup bahas, if they want to rely within the local investor, how then the tech startup under the setup bahas will going to develop, right? But then first issues, why foreign investment is one of the way for Indonesians to bring to bring betterment for Indonesians, right? I think that we already know how Gojek, Tokopedia, and those kind of things become one of the giant technology startup in Indonesia that getting recognition from all over the world. Like Tokopedia getting investment from Alibaba Group as big as $1.1 billion US dollar to enlarge the startup technology. We're going to explain to you why then local investor will less likely going to invest within this kind of like startup tech, right? We're going to explain how Indonesians with the context of developing country, where there's possibility people will going to be reluctant to invest into the competitions is big, right? We have Amazons, we have Shopee, and etc. They will less likely to invest within the small technology startup because it is risky for them, right? This is exactly where under the Sada Bahas, not only they stuck under the investment, but under the investment and development, but also limit the market and economic growth in Indonesia, right? We think that if they want us to small business as how we already live in budgets, we cannot rely on government proposal, right? Because nowadays where you spend most of your time is on the internet. This is where they have interest to buy something and consume something because of what they see in their timeline, right? Those investment coming from foreign make people becoming more convenient to do business. This is how we incentivize our people that starting business is. This is how we incentivize people to create business, right? Later on, this is how we're going to make people going to start business is easy and incentivize people to make to start a business, right? Because it doesn't need much for you to need a business because you do not need to rent a building or purchasing the store necessary and other things. You can have income when you can have like better income when they have higher income under the status quo. This is how we're going to have bigger purchasing power and how we're going to create a betterment economic growth in Indonesia. But yes, CG. Easy?
Yes, if your logic is that we don't have a lot of resources, then how exactly under your side small business can survive?
We think that what we're going to talk about is not how we have like some big resources or small resources, right? I told you how then on the outside of the house what we do not have is actually how the capital power that we need to actually enlarge or expand this startup tech, right? Because what we need right now is actually to adapt us within the digital era, that we need to enter the international market on the outside of the house, right? We tell you that we may have those kind of those human resources that you offer, or those human resources that you offer are the natural resources. But this is how we're going to manage it better with the foreign investment on the outside of the house. Because we tell you that how this foreign investment is less likely going to invest within the small technology, smart tech up and under your side of the house, because they are reluctant because it is too risky and they're afraid for not getting benefit. But a big group like Alibaba, for example, it is something very small for them to actually invest to Tokopedia, for example. This is how we're going to make those capital power to expand our startup, right? The second things, they say we will have market disruptions. This is the whole root of opening government case, that this foreign investment create market disruptions. We think that no. We think that the idea of market disruption should be something that limit our economic growth, right? But in 2015, for example, Mr. Madam Speaker, the growth of Gojek expand greatly, that making our society not only has job build, but also making people easier to do entrepreneurship. This is how Gojek expand their aspect. This is how because Gojek work with Google or Tencent, how they open up their investment towards every country. This is how Hong Kong could also enter the investment. This is how every small business in rural area could be known greatly thanks to the growth of this market, right? Because we use this money to expand the country. The second thing, they say that the foreign investor doesn't know how the market investment goes, right? No, we think that every investor will always do research upon the company or startup that they will invest, right? This is ridiculous if the investor do not do research for the company, because this is about money and they need to gain profit. This is their job and things that they do for life. So it is nonsense if they think that they don't understand the market. The second things, we think that it is exactly, we say that the investor know the and outside of the house, it is exactly because the investor know the opportunities to invest in Indonesia, because they need those profits. Because they already analyze the market in Indonesia, that's why they're going to invest much more in Indonesia, right? They have to tell you whether this is going to be so harmful when we get it as only benefit to actually having the chance to expand our startup, right? But then let's engage within this space that even if the local investor more understand the market, we think that no first that this investor will going to do the research. But even if the local investor understand more, we think that the amount of capital that will going to be invested by this local investor will be not as big as the foreign investor like we have in status quo. Because what we need is actually a fast change and fast development change to keep on track within the market. But then third things, how are we going to maximize profit from this foreign investment? My first speaker tell you how Gojek work with Google and Tencent. From our investment is a lot, not only capital, right? But, not only money, but also knowledge and also exposure. In 2018, Gojek collabed with PayPal because Gojek got the recognition on how Gojek becoming the biggest startup in Southeast Asia, right? This is where we get exposure and can be seen that Indonesia has big market opportunity. This is how we're going to enter the international market easily. Under the side of the house, we will less likely going to enter international market because you ban this foreign investor, right? You limit the access of this foreign investor to see the market opportunity in Indonesia. Under the side of the house, this won't happen because you become exclusive by banning this foreign investor. This is why this is harmful. If Indonesia have a lot of natural resources, exactly because the developed market, we need this to develop the startup we oppose.
I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition for the speech. To open the closing half, I call upon the government member.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I'm gonna start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Competition of prices and economy in Indonesia should focus on markets of Indonesia, of our people. It should focus on the question, is our people able to buy this? Is our society capable for this kind of price or this high price or even low price in that product, right? We don't care if you have way better technology. We don't care about that if it results in us having so much changes within society, if that results in people not being able to even buy their simplest necessity, then we don't want that in our society. We care for the sudden rise of price. We care for the small businesses who still need to pay their workers, who still need to pay their rent, who will be crushed under opposition side of the house, right? What is our model in this debate? Our model is very simple. We're going to go on the same page with opening government by banning foreign investment. But what makes us different by opening government that we're going to establish and actually explain to you why it is going to be so harmful, and with a more better explanation than opening government, we're going to establish to you and give you characterizations why FDI is so evil, and hence why I think that the credit should go into closing government, right? If we are able to prove to you, number one, FDI brings more harm than good, but also secondly, if we can prove we can still develop even without FDI, and trigger of startup still happens under our side of the house, then not the confirmation champions this debate, right? What am I going to talk about in my speech? My rebuttal is going to be intertwined in my speech, right? I'm going to give you two arguments. Number one, harm, why FDI brings more harm than good. But secondly, why under our side of the house, triggers of startup will still happen, development will still happen, and how we will have a more fair of competition, right? But firstly, notice that why FDI is evil is under four structural reasons. Number one, FDI wants the biggest profit but the lowest investation. This is why they always want to invest in companies that most likely is only it gives small prices, for example, right? But also small wages to the worker. But secondly, if FDI likes to invest in corporations or companies who give small wages but caters a lot of people. This is why they go with Gojek, for example, because they have so much workers with small wages but caters a lot of people, right? I'm going to explain why even if this happens, this is still toxic. But thirdly, their character is that they only invest in one company simultaneously. So they most likely is going to exploit that particular company until the fullest. But lastly, why they are evil? Because they only invest in big company. They're not going to invest in smaller business. They will most likely only invest on those who already has a big name, for example, who already have a big capital in the very first place, right? Moving on to my argument. Number one, on the harm, why FDI brings more harm than good. Indonesia, it is that what you have to notice in this debate, is lacking on brain drain as in developing country, right? What does it mean? It means that we lack talent to begin with. We lack resources, for example, or people who is capable for that. This means that if you are going to use FDI as your basis or have them invest in your company, they will most likely not only buy your share, for example, but they will also most likely bring their workers, right? Into coming into your company. So this is why opening opposition falls, because even if they're going to claim, oh, job applicants is going to have so much job opportunities, that doesn't matter, because even if you do get job, you are only going to get the smallest wages, because the high positions are filled with FDI, right? So even if that happens, I think that is not going to be cost good, because you most likely are going to the lowest hierarchy, right? No, because under our the house, what makes it better is that we're going to have a more fair form of competition, because every company is competing in the same ground, right? Because notice, under opposition, most likely this kind of big capital or big companies are the only actor that is able to lower their price so much. Why? Because they have the backup of this FDI, right? If you want to compete with these big companies, it is going to be so hard, because if we have a lot of demand, you have to lower your price. If you cannot compete with them, especially when you have to lower your price, you are not going to get profit. So under opposition, smaller business or those business who cannot get FDI and doesn't have a lot of capital is going to be dead instantly, right? The problem is the startup kills their other competitors by pricing. They are willing to lower their prices at price of loss for 1 year, for example, to bleed out their competitor. This is killing local companies and other startups without FDI cannot afford this because they lack capital to begin with. Only Gojek, Grab, Tokopedia, or Bukalapak or Shopee, for example, is the only actor or is the only company, right? Moreover, a system of FDI is that they only invest in one company simultaneously. This means that if you're going to go under the side of the house, of course that there will be a lot of exploitations. But even if under exploitations, it is going to cost like bigger technology. Notice that even if that happens, right, that is going to most likely only cater those who are privileged. Why? Because if you have a lot of high pricing or products, for example, and you have a lot more, it means that your prices is going to go up, and the only market or society that can buy that is those who are rich. It means that even if technology is better under the side of the house, it is not going to cater every layer of society in this world or even in Indonesia itself. When you know a developing country of Indonesia has a lot of people who is under in the poverty line, it means that this is the people that we should prioritize to begin with. This is the people that deserve even more Gojek services, for example. But exactly under opposition, even if that happens, it is not going to be a good thing because these people are not going to be able to buy that anyway, right? I think that even if on that point, I think that opening opposition is lost on that particular subject, right? But why it is going to be still better, and we can still develop even without FDI. Notice, in Indonesia, technology is new to begin with, and in the status quo, Jokowi have already fund UMKM, for example, and medium investment, which means it is enough in the status quo. Local people is going to but also notice, we can still have local people to invest in our company, which is going to be far more better because their interest is not on their self-interest from another country, but in Indonesia. So it means that they know what exactly that they have to, what kind of price is suitable, for example, and they're not going to be evil because their interest is not to exploit, for example, right? Local people then make local startup, and we are going to be able to compete in local competition. Under the side of the house, people are not going to have the capability or even the intuitive to make a new company. Why? Because they know at the end of the day, they're going to lose to this big capital that have FDI inside of them. They're going to lose the market price and all the competition of demand and prices at the end of the day, because they cannot, of course, lower their prices for 1 year or 2 years in order to win the prices, the competition of the prices itself, right? And even if they're going to say, oh, benefits of FDI exist, that benefit will most likely only go into another country, right? Not Indonesia. Being so proud to propose, we think that not the coffee machine deserves to champion this debate.
Thank you for the speech to open the case of closing opposition. I'd like to call upon the opposition member.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I'm going to begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. The biggest mistake for all sides in this debate was their argument wasn't exclusive and was not comparative to the kinds of status quo and the kinds of characterization that we think is ingrained within Indonesia. Let's deal with all sides one by one. The entire government bench has never proven their main burden, because we say that this house would ban motion. It's not enough to say that there are problems. You have to prove that the problems is systematic and inherent within the system itself, that no reformation could come within given the problems that existed. under CO, we would come to you with a very specific mechanism that we would support regulations such as 51%, for example, for local investor and 49% from foreign. You need to have certain portions of workers coming from Indonesia, for example. We would regulate predatory pricing. We would tax them properly, for instance. We would ensure that the workers are paid properly, for instance. These are regulations that is feasible to be put on, but not necessarily something that's impossible for us to do in the current status quo, right? That's why we think this deals with a lot of complaints coming from government bench that, yeah, they will be like super evil and whatnot. We think we can regulate that within our side of the house. What is the problem with opening opposition? Opening opposition only claim that foreign investment is good without explaining why it is exclusive the benefit from foreign investment, why local investment cannot give that particular benefit. So we would contribute in two ways to fill in that gap. Firstly, we would say that local investors are not enough because one, these people are very comfortable with traditional business model, for example, because these are usually older investors that are already in the business for a long time, which means they will be more cautious in trying to go to this new innovative thing. I think they are more comfortable in their old ways of doing business. But the younger investors still don't have the same capital of the very rich, super rich individuals on the top that currently dominated the Indonesian market. Therefore, the comparative in government is not only less innovation, but more probably no innovation at all, because there will be no investment that comes simply because the capital is not there in the first place. But okay, what is the structural benefit of foreign investment under our side of the house? Three things here. The first is bigger capital and human resources transfer that opening opposition has correctly identified. But we think beyond that is a more important benefit from foreign investment is twofold. The first is experience that this foreign investment has. This means business model, for example, that this corporation has. Like the business model and the management of the company, for example, they can advise local investor to know and help them improve at the end of the day. But the second thing that opening government tell us that this foreign investment is so evil. We don't think so, right? They will research, they will make sure that their investment will be worthwhile at the end of the day, that they also want profit at the end of the day. Therefore, they want to look for the information, and this particular information is better under our side because it is utilized by the people that already understand the context of this technology startup to begin with. If Indonesian people are still highly unexperienced with these startups, meaning that even if they have the information, they don't understand how to use that information properly at the end of the day. Therefore, we think we have contributed. This is firstly that the characterization of foreign investment is not that they're not evil, but also good for providing assistance and filling in the knowledge gap that younger people that want to build startup in Indonesia currently lacking of, right? I think that's important because knowledge and experience is what will make the progress of Indonesian economy even further in the future. Secondly, let's talk about competitiveness nature of the market. I have 6 things to say in this point. The first is that we think the biggest accusation coming from government is that it will disrupt the market. Firstly, we think different business model has its own consumer base. For example, traditional markets currently still exist, but people who go to supermarket also exist, right? So there are different people who use different services, which we don't think necessarily stop using the service at all. But secondly, we think this argument is an argument against all kind of innovation, not only for foreign investments. Why is that case? Because when supermarket, for example, become booming in Indonesia, obviously traditional market buyer will decreases. But this does not mean that you have to ban supermarket or ban supermarket development under their side of the house, right? Which we think they never justified under that basis. The third thing I want to say is that they accuse us of increased pricing, that companies can do whatever they want to do this. We have 4 responses to this. Firstly, regulations that already existed. But secondly, we think it's unlikely to happen. Why? Because there is competition between foreign investments as well. We look at this with Gojek and Grab, for example, where you cannot increase price so significantly that Grab can simply win out competition and you will lose out your entire customer base, right? But thirdly, exactly when it is only local investor, competition will be highly limited because the amount of people who have capital is that person again and again, right? Like those who are already conglomerate within Indonesia. But when the competition is foreign, is global investment, you never know who will come in at any time, and you are afraid to lose your customer base when that lucrative market is being seen by foreign investment. Therefore, we think it gives incentive for you to maintain your good performance within Indonesia. But fourthly, I think it incentivizes company to make their products as accessible as possible, because they also want people to be able to purchase their products, not only catering to the elitist group of Indonesia, but the more people buy, it means more profit, right? So I think that's simply not comparative under closing government. The fourth thing to say under this competitive market argument is innovation under our side would be better. Why is it the case? Two things. The first is efficiency of production. This means the working system, for example, would be reformed in a way that the foreign investments already understand how to utilize the resources as efficient as possible. But two, if it was only local, I think there is no incentives for any reform regarding the system. When you look at taxi, for example, they can increase prices in the past before Gojek as much as they want. Like they use the meter system, but their driver do anything as much as they want. And when Gojek comes, they cannot do that anymore because they can lose out of the consumer base that is very important. Fifthly, we would even say bite the bullet. And even when there are certain businesses that will have to fail, the comparative is the huge benefit for overall society. What are these benefits? First, consumer that get cheaper price, right? But two, it is the more efficient service that this product provided. Like Gojek makes your life easier. You don't need to walk long distances, for example. You can just call your driver to your houses, for example. But three, this gives more job opportunities. Sure, there are some portion of job that is lost, but there are also much more job opportunities that was created by this foreign investment that is lucrative in Indonesia. So what is ultimately the importance of this argument? When Indonesia currently wants to compete in the global scheme, or at least within ASEAN itself, you need foreign investment to progress, and you need that capital in order for you to make sure that you are still competitive, not only within Indonesia, but also within the global scheme, right? We take an example of Gojek, for example, where they can expand to Malaysia, Singapore, to Vietnam, and they can only do that when there are like Google investment, for example, within Gojek. Insofar as that does not happen under their side, we think that is harmful. We're so proud to oppose. Sorry.
Thank you for the speech. To close the case of closing government, I'd like to call upon the government whip.
Wait, ntar ambil timer. Where's my time? Okay. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so notice that the opposition case focused on how you as Indonesia could gain so much money to in the end of the day. But then we're going to, the member of the government have already proven to you on how the money that you receive as a startup company will of course go towards outside country. The member of the government have already also characterized on how we as a developing country, we lack the brain drain and we lack the manpower, and not the manpower, we lack the skills to operate in this kind of thing to begin with. But then compare our side to CG and OG, because the OG told you only tech is replacing conventional sector that already exists without the FDI. We think that this is not an argument that you should take under your note, because this is not mutually exclusive on how tech startup work. Because notice that, and the member of the government have already told you on how this exclusive works in the end of the day. So that let's destroy opposition bench case. First thing, they say that they want higher income to begin with. That won't happen in the end of the day. Why? First thing, because you as Indonesia, you are a developing country, you will most likely be only your lower worker, such as you in Indonesia could only be those that accepted in that workplace to begin with. So only in lower price worker. Example for that is you as a Gojek driver or you as a Gojek customer service, which we think is not that kind of beneficial under your side of the house. It's not that something that you should glorify in the first place. But then the second thing is that you have the power, even if you have the power and able to climb the startup company, that is to say that you become one of the director or one of the technician in there, we say that it has only small chance and small quota to begin with. Why? Because small quota applies that you as an Indonesia will most likely only enter little in this because you don't have the man quality to begin with. Because notice under the characterization of developing country, we as Indonesia, the opposition must also have conceit, because this is a fact that Indonesia lacks man quality to begin with. But then who benefits under this? one that benefits from this is foreign people. Even if they say that Gojek is already expanding in Asian market, such as Malaysia, Philippines, and other kind of thing. We say that no, we say that this is not your benefit. Why? Because your benefit in the end of the day goes towards those that invest to you in the end of the day. Example for this is Gojek.
On
Let's
that
take
point,
case.
sir.
No, Gojek technician. Gojek technician has only most likely Google and Tencent's technician under their workplace, proving to you on how even Indonesia people are most likely hard because they want profit in the end of the day, and they want the predatory marketing in Indonesia. That is what they want in the first place.
Please take one, sir.
This harms no, and because how Indonesia get work is only by becoming your normal customer service or even other white collar worker in the end of the day. But then the second thing is that when the closing opposition told you that we don't have this kind of model on operating on how if we ban FPI. Notice that member of the government have already told you on Jokowi investment in UMKM and startup exists in his presidential election in the first place. So that point should not be taken, thus proving to you on how the government bench has already destroyed opposition bench on how you destroy their profit in the end of the day. But then let's take the comparative. What happened if we have under FBI? The market is not monopolized in the first place because under our side of the house, more startup can prosper, including technical startup. Why? Because many people can opt it in the first place. 3 reasons for that. First, because you have many untapped markets in the first place, meaning that you have many people to cater to. That means that you have more incentivized to do this because most of these people in this market to begin with, it's not catering towards those that have FDI to begin with. But then the second thing is that you are not knocked out by monopoly. We're going to prove to you on how monopoly by foreign direct investment work. But then the third thing is that you enforce your parameter towards enforce creativity as the parameter towards attractiveness, not money. Because the moment of the government ordered to you, the reason why they want in the first place, like Gojek won over other local tech company startup, is because they have predatory pricing. Predatory pricing means that you lower your price as low as possible.
Before 6, sir.
No, meaning that they will bit the bullet so that they could bleed out other companies to begin with. That is the exact reason of why this is the exact parameter on how companies want profit in the end of the day, right? So that meaning that in order to bleed out this kind of thing, they put predatory pricing. They don't care if they don't get profit in the end of the day, but all they care is that they could knock you out in the first place and kick you out from that market in the end of the day. And this harms you because you have less people that could opt in under your side. But then let's see on how benefits of when creativity become parameter. Of course, you know how to cater people so that who can be more innovative. Second, this is better because people can enjoy technology that is being innovative. But then how under their side is not innovative enough? Because the first thing is that you are either if you have new innovation, you are either being acquisition or being merger toward that big company that have already prospered in the first place because of this foreign infestation. That is to say that you buy them. Or then the second thing is that you copy their strategy, you copy their innovation in the end of the day. That is the parallel example of Facebook copying Snapchat's feature through IG story. I forgot his name. But then the third thing is that they have name to begin with. This is to prove to you on how they are easy to copy you and they could leave you bled out dry and not having any more innovation, and thus proving to you on how this is harmful. But then on the other side, foreign economy will in many cases end up in acquisition. Why? Because it's better to it is easier to align their concern in the end of the day. Notice that foreign direct investment only work by investing only in one sector. Member of the government already told you this because when they said that they could stand under the same ground, we say no. Why? Because FDI most likely how it works is by only investing in one sector per country. That is why Google, Facebook, and Tencent and other people and other companies simultaneously only invest in Gojek because Gojek have already been invested. They don't invest in other companies, tech companies in Indonesia to begin with. This proves to you on how it harms and they could monopoly it in the end of the day. But then what's the most possible scenario is that because Indonesia have lack of bargaining power to begin with, you have less competition with inside company because notice that innovator and stakeholder in this case also works by their lobbying, and of course company will most likely cater towards the stakeholder in the end of the day. And they could opt in into other countries profit in the end of the day. Proves to you on how we should ban foreign investment protocols.
Okay, thank you for the speech. Just a friendly and quick reminder for everyone, unless the speaker explicitly allows you to give POI through unmuting yourself, please do it in a least disruptive manner. But even if in the event that the speaker allows you to unmute yourself, please also take some sort of spaces in between times, like 15 seconds or more, to then offer another POI. So yeah, don't make it continuously so that the adjudicators can hear to the speaker a lot clearer and the connection or the listening to the speech is not troubled. Yeah, to close the case of closing op as well as the entire final, I'd like to call upon the opposition whip.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh yeah, if you want a POI, just unmute yourself because I won't read the chat. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We believe that OG has lost this debate because all they said in their speeches were just one-liners and they never actually explained why changes due to innovation is very harmful to begin with. But second, they also brought this idea about palm oil, but it's also just one-liner that never been developed by OG throughout their two speeches, right? OO has lost the debate because when they use the wording of it's beneficial, they never actually explain to you on how and why it is beneficial. But they also only saying that tech startup is beneficial, but not actually telling you on why specifically foreign investors having this exclusive benefit by the foreign investor. We think that CO is better on opposition bench. But CG also lost because CG only talks to you about low wages and also having high prices or predatory prices. But they never actually explain to you on why foreign investors would actually have any intention to actually do this to begin with, right? Because we believe that if OO can, if CG cannot prove why the foreign investors have a malicious intention, we win because we can at least show you on why there is an intention to not be malicious. But CG also lost because they rely on having local investors, but they never actually have to explain to you on why is the benefit is exclusive. But second, why is there an intention to actually invest to begin with, right? We hear no responses from their web as well. Two issues in this debate. Firstly, about justification, and second, about the development in the future. Firstly, on the justification. OG brought to you this weird idea about shift in behavior due to innovation being bad, but they don't really explain to you on why these are bad, right? We believe that in the past, carts powered by horses are the things that we use, but now it's cars. We also use steam-powered stuff, but now we're actually using electricity. But they never actually explain to you on why these. We think that this is actually very beneficial because it gives convenience, give comfort and efficacy for us. With the technological innovations that follow it. But even if we take it on our worst case scenario, we believe that, like my member already said, that market segmentation still exists. People are going to have still using the traditional methods, for example, and still new ones. But what is most important that only exists in CO is that we want to point out when there is a need or a dire need, for example, you can go somewhere, there is this innovation that can help you. You need something very quick. You can actually get that now using tech innovation. We believe that that's exclusive to CO, right? But then OG said, and also there's also something about CG also telling you on how only rich or privileged people can actually access this, or you're only going to have local people to be low-level workers, right? We tell you no. Because we believe that, let's just look at the example right now, like Gojek, right? We believe that, first of all, Gojek actually has the drivers of Indonesian people to begin with. But if you want to actually have a better example, we're going to give you Nadiem Makarim, for example, the creator of Gojek, for example. There is actually part of the boards of executive, the technicians and IT specialists are from Indonesian people to begin with, right? But okay, let's not actually talk about Gojek right now, but let's talk about the intention and the benefit analysis within these kind of companies, right? We believe that, of course, foreign investors want to actually have Indonesian people to be able to climb to the director position, for example. Why? Because they need local or first-hand knowledge. Because foreign investors knows this. They know they rely on them for information on the ground and for knowledge exchange. I'm going to explain to you why it's important on my second issues. But then OG brought to you about natural resources being exploited. We don't think that this is relevant because we think that tech industry does not highly rely on natural resources. Thus, exploitation is highly unlikely to happen. But even if it does happen, there is regulations to stop that, even in status quo right now, right? We believe that the next thing is about the issue of foreign investors being malicious part of the justification, right? They said that OG said that the foreign investors will slow down development. Two things. Firstly, we don't think that foreign investors go in and invest startups in Indonesia out of the blue, right? They already know when they do want to invest, they are ready to invest and have the intention to develop and succeed to begin with. We believe that if there is a failure or they want to slow the development or progress of the startup, they will also affect the investors themselves because they already spent money. We believe that exclusive to CO here is the cost benefit analysis that exists within the investors in and of itself. But then secondly, about having these foreign investors not knowing about Indonesia and the system. Three responses. First of all, like I said before, they're already ready to invest. That means they already have an intention to research because they want to sustain and still get profit and succeed. They won't defy and have malicious intent to begin with, right? But second of all, we believe that when they already in and investing, that means they're already still obeying. But third of all, even if all fails, we still have these regulations that never been rebutted by WIP, right? We believe that in the end of the day, CG and COO, CG relies on local knows more and pays more argument. We believe that we have four responses. First of all, we believe that we already told you that local investors are unlikely to invest because of small capital that they exist, but also to the amount of uncertainty, but also the amount that this is not how the mindset of local people actually have in majority, right? But second of all, we already give you the comparison that we foreign people want to research and want to know how market and the behavioral of consumers in Indonesia before they invest because they don't want to fail in the future, so they do this to begin with. But third of all, this cannot actually outweighs the fact that we already bring those kind of benefits that exist in foreign investors only that is not parallel to the local industry. But first of all, when we take the incentive, we believe that there is a bottom-up incentive where workers are more likely going to be made happy and enjoy their work by paid more to actually make sure the company works well and so on and so forth. We believe that in the end of the day, when they said it's enough in status quo, Joko is going to help, we say no, right? But even if it's already there, we're going to make it better and we take CG's benefit and have our own exclusive benefit CG already lost. But then OO said CG said there will be no competition because this incentivized. We believe that it's more disincentivized on their side because when they know they're not going to be having any capital to begin with. But if there is no ban, we can actually have startups to actually try to make it as appealing and as creative as possible. So foreign investors want to invest them. We promote more innovation on our side. Going to the second issue on development, right? We believe that when OG already lost because they said, okay, with no innovation, they already lost in this debate. But then CG said, local investors. We think that this is not parallel because of my member already told you how knowledge, information, resources, the ones that actually can be a knowledge exchange that exists within foreign people and also Indonesia, they can actually increase them on innovation, but moreover, to try and get the resources that are more reliable and innovation that can actually have more cheap like ingredients, for example, or equipment, for example, not refunded by government WIP. We believe that in the end of the day, their whole thing was to say that money goes to the foreign. We believe that we're going to bite the bullet, even if this happens. It happens with the existence of the development and the resources and the knowledge exchange that would exist, explained by my member. We're okay because it's not just the foreign investors benefit. It could actually mean that the money can be used to keep on actually helping the startups to begin with. Then their last one was high prices. We think that when we analyze, they won't actually do this because they need market and consumers as a startup, right? They don't want to shut down customers. And for predatory pricing, there are regulations in status quo. We can have it in CO as well. And if they want to sustain, they will obey. We believe that the government bench actually want to leave out the creative minds that can build the nation. We regret that their stance. CO wins. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the great debate. I think you may leave this room because the judge will be using this room to deliberate.
Okay, thanks.
Nggak apa-apa, Mat. I can create breakout rooms if you want. Ya, dibikinin aja, Lev.
Yeah. Oh, dibikinin. Okay. Okay, I'll just wait.
Rizky, lu nyalain video buat ngaca.
Just invite you guys to
everyone here,
breakout room,
I
ya.
am sorry for me messing up from the first I said something that I shouldn't have before.